Hey everyone, welcome back to the GEB America podcast. I'm your host, Dave Groves, and we are so glad you're joining us. Here at the start of 2026, we've done some educational shows. We did one on artificial intelligence. We had one that specifically talked about how to be mindful of your money and how to budget and that sort of thing. And so kind of continuing with the education is a really big one for the new year. And we know this to be true because by the 9th of January, most people have blown or given up on their resolutions, and so maybe it's less about resolution and it's more about lifestyle. So today we're pleased to welcome on from Sodexo Food Services, the dietitian at Oral Roberts University, Diane Johnson joins us. Diane, thank you for coming on. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the speakers and not necessarily those of GEB America, Oral Roberts University, or their employees. This program is not intended to offer investment, financial, medical, legal, or any other advice. Viewers should consult a subject matter professional regarding any such matters.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I appreciate this opportunity.
Well, it's in your title. You're a dietitian. And we were talking off camera a minute ago. So many people get caught up in trends. And honestly, there's so many trends. And there's an upside down food pyramid. A lot of people just are like, okay, what do I do? Do I eat breakfast or do I intermittent fast? Do I avoid carbs and prioritize protein? For those that are just like, I can't make sense of it all. Talk a little bit about what's good for them or not good for them. And a reminder, this is educational. You want to consult your doctor and your own professional medical person before you start any dieting or exercise. But we want to just kind of educate people.
Right, exactly. So I think like we talked about with the food trends that you see constantly in the bombardment of just food options at the grocery stores, I think it's overwhelming for a lot of people. You go in and you're like, I have 30 plus different types of peanut butter to choose from. Which one is best? How do I decipher what I want to do? I would say what I tell a lot of people to do, which can help with the exhaustion of it all, is find the less ingredients, the better. Find a peanut butter or whatever food product it is that is of higher quality, and then find what you like, because I think that's going to matter a lot. That's going to matter, like if you're going to continuously consume that, or if you decide this isn't going to work long term. The perfect example I have is when it comes to protein powders, specifically plant-based protein powders. A lot of times I think that, someone will buy a protein powder that seems like the highest quality, but it's super chalky, doesn't have any taste. You're not going to continuously drink that day after day if you don't like the taste and you're just trying to like shoot it down as fast as possible. So I think flavor profile goes a long way. You see in other countries, it doesn't seem like they have these diet trends as much. I think because they enjoy the quality of their food and they enjoy whole foods. And I'm always speaking on food first. If you want to try a trend, sometimes it is good to try the intermittent fasting specific to what your goals are, specific to your health. And I always will, if someone wants to go on like a vegan diet, vegetarian diet, there's options, there's great ways to do that, and you might feel better, whereas someone else might feel better going more like the paleo route, which is kind of aligns a little bit more with what we're seeing this upside down food pyramid looking like. The biggest hesitancy going into the food pyramid that we're seeing from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is the largest number of dietetic practitioners kind of looking into the latest research, they actually agree with a lot of what the pyramid has to say. I think the biggest red flags are the amount of saturated fats coming from red meat, dairy. But again, you can choose more of those lean protein options, plant-based protein options, fish. And I think it's very important that we're seeing kind of, this is a general recommendation for most of our population. If you get into the specifics of, like I was working previous to this job solely with student athletes and professional athletes, they're going to need a larger percentage of carbohydrates just because that's what fuels your muscle and your brain. So in that circumstance, you would want to focus on the quality and quantity of the carbohydrates that you're having and make sure to pair it with protein and fat, so that it doesn't just like ramp up your blood sugar. But if you're someone who's a little bit more sedentary, or you don't work out, 2-3 hours a day, you're probably, the new food pyramid probably is going to be more geared towards your needs. So very specific. I think like the biggest takeaway would be everybody's needs are different. I think it's very important to, again, like you had said, like consult your medical practitioner, dietitian. If you do want to go, the vegan route, the vegetarian route, make sure to do it in the right way, because you have something called complete proteins where you want to get the right proteins paired together. You also might need to supplement with things like B12, iron, vitamin D, calcium, which are very, very important for your longevity, your bone health, and making sure that you don't run into long-term health issues by missing out on some of these vital micronutrients and macronutrients.
Well, and you talk about athletes. I mean, something that's been a trend is if you're a professional or you're a student athlete, when you're no longer that athlete, a lot of times what happens is they don't alter their food intake. They still stay heavy carbs. And then what you see is 5 years, 7 years later, they've gained a lot of weight or they feel
Yeah.
very sluggish. It's because they're trying to fuel their body with that carbohydrate, high calorie diet, and they're not putting in the work that is causing all that to burn. And that's why a lot of times, unfortunately, I mean, we've had some professional athletes that I feel like it's sad that they died young because they weren't altering for the next stage of life. So talk a little bit about that because we got so many people that listen that are, they're working 8 to 5, they're raising kids, or they're involved in projects. Maybe you're running the kids the ball, soccer, gym, dance, whatever. Talk about
Yes.
like that is such an issue in America is the convenience, unfortunately, at times turns into it's the worst thing. It's hitting that drive through or that convenience store. Talk about what are the things that people can do to help them kind of in that journey that is such a challenge when you're picking kids up from school and you're dropping them to a soccer game.
Yes, yes, it's a lot, and I know we live in a very busy society culture where we're just on the go constantly. So in practicality, eating, cooking, having sit down meals is probably not going to look like what it maybe did in the past, and that's okay. We just need to make sure to be mindful of the times that we do have to carve out those times when we can to have some of those meals and then work within what you can do. So on the weekends, if it involves some meal prepping, so you're using things
Yes.
like the Instant Pot, which I'm still trying to get it down. Everybody has what works for them. That's not my forte. The air fryer, just using some of these cooking utensils, gadgets that can profoundly help you for setting up your whole week. I think this is what I tell my college students a lot. Just planning ahead the best that you can go a long way. So with my professional athletes, a lot of times, like I do wish there was a better transition out of athletics into the real world, where at some point, whether you are a college athlete, whether you go on to be professional, you are going to need to adjust your type and style of eating just because you're not going to be working out as vigorously. It's just how it goes. And that is very hard for a lot of athletes. And I think that's where you see a lot of athletes put on some weight. I actually was a collegiate track and field athlete. And I remember years ago, like joking with one of my teammates who said, you almost have to train your body for a whole different type of training where you're able to sit from 8 to 5 in a chair and just like make it through the endurance of that type of day. So it's kind of interesting. That's always sat with me. It's still vigorous in a way that looks different from the physical part of it, that you're working your mind, you're consistently just need endurance to get through an entire Monday through Friday work week on
Right.
top of maybe raising a family. And I'm a big believer of, find food products that maybe not aren't like the cream of the crop, like you talk about, like organic beef, chicken, making it from scratch. I think when you get sucked into that, a lot of times what happens is someone says like, I messed up this entire week, like just throw in the towel, forget it, I'm going through fast food and Chick-fil-A 3 nights a week. I think you do the best that you can and you just try to find those convenience products that are better than others. So like for myself, even as a dietitian, I don't love the process of cooking. I love the process of fueling my body with what
Yeah. Yeah.
makes me feel good. So sometimes that does involve like the pre-bagged, pre-cooked rices or a lot of people don't like tuna. That's just coming to mind, tuna, or the like frozen turkey meatballs or beef meatballs, or just having things that are accessible. I know a lot of people love Trader Joe's because they have some healthier options that are frozen options. Costco, if you have a big family, just like trying to find some of those pre-made meals that do work for your family, where, sometimes you have the balance of cooking or meal prepping, and sometimes you just have those convenience meals, and it might be that season that you're in.
So it's definitely, I think, prioritizing this idea of whole healthy foods.
Yes,
So if
absolutely.
it's a fresh or healthy whole vegetable and it isn't in a can or it hasn't been through processing or it hasn't been turned into a chip. I mean those so really it is prioritizing those types of things. Avoiding things that have the any processing that's been done to it.
Yes, I would definitely say so. I think the more that you can have foods made from scratch, cooked without those added ingredients and preservatives, which we're seeing in a lot of our food products that are convenience products now. I mean, that's going to be like the best of the best. But again, if you rely on, a lot of people ask about like frozen vegetables. If you're relying on that, rest assured, sometimes that's actually better than whatever fresh produce you're buying at the store because it's in its flash frozen state. So it's frozen at the highest degree of nutrient retention. So it actually might have more nutrients than just like the produce, whatever, broccoli, asparagus that you're just picking up fresh. Of course, you want to incorporate those, but if you are relying on those frozen vegetables, I think the biggest thing is look for the amount of sodium or sauces that are added to that. Better than not having them at all for sure. I would definitely encourage you include that in your diet over just not having any fruits and vegetables at all. But I would definitely say, you know, feel good about that choice if you are picking up those frozen vegetables because it just conveniently works and you're seasoning it yourself. And I think that would be ideal. A lot of what we're trying to teach a lot of like our students in the collegiate environment is like scratch cooking. Like we have a cooking demo coming up with one of our chefs, just because I think that's an art that's especially when you go to college, you're offered, which is amazing, these meal plans. Like now we have a new executive chef at ORU that we've hired, and he is big on the scratch cooking. So taking the
Mm,
preservatives out, and this is a huge change that we're seeing moving forward going into the spring semester, which is very, very exciting.
yeah.
But we're trying to implement some of those cooking demos, some recipe cards, just showing students how they can cook for themselves when they do leave college and they're like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm supporting myself or supporting a family and I need to figure out, male or female, like how to cook for my family and how to balance this.
What are some trends that you
Mm.
feel like are people are maybe, hearing and you're like, "Hey, there's some things to this that you really can benefit from."
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's so many different types of diets out there. I think that most every diet, apart from the carnivore diet, would agree that vegetables are just a very foundational part that should be included in every diet, which is really, really good to see. A lot of times, like, we'll kind of emphasize try to get 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. When I tell someone who's eating, 2,000 plus calories per day, I'll even try to strive for, and again, this comes to like, try not to be perfectionistic about it and do the best that you can. But if you can get 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables, which sounds crazy, but if you think about putting together a salad, you throw in a topping, maybe you have a smoothie, you throw in like I always throw in spinach into the smoothie, a couple
Yes.
fruits. Maybe you make an omelet, you throw in some spinach there. You have banana, orange, something kind of portable, easy to bring with you. And that's what you're snacking on over, again, more of these processed food options.
Mhm.
It's very doable and it's actually easy to kind of like add those numbers up. And I think that the more you implement these habits, the easier they become and the more you crave those foods. The more you have these foods, the more your body just craves that.
Well, and it does something shifts in your physiological makeup.
Yeah.
One of the things that and I didn't used to be this way, but one of the things that I really started doing that I encourage people to really consider is you can get I mean, yeah, so you get a plate of broccoli as a side, but you can't cover it in cheese. You know? You can't
Exactly.
melted cheese like you can't that's always the thing. It's like, oh, I love strawberries, but if you dip them in chocolate, as delicious as it is, have one. But
Yeah.
it's in America, we tend to like, oh, that's a really great steak, bagel. But if you
Yeah.
put cheese and special sauce on it, you just through, you just threw the calories through the roof. And
Absolutely.
I think that what happens in your physiological, and I've noticed this, I had this happen. I went to a grocery store. I had worked out. I'd had some, some protein. And when I walked in the store, there was this huge display of cookies, and it actually kind of made me go, ugh. Like, I actually had a physical reaction when I saw these delicious cookies because my body wasn't like, well, I got to have it. It was more of like, it almost kind of repulsed me a little bit. And the idea of having worked, run, biked, whatever, and lifted weights or whatever, and then eating healthy, and then to go blow it with a cookie, my body was like, no, don't do that. And so I
Yes.
think that
Yep.
you're right about the habits. So I have a favorite sandwich shop I love to go to. Well, the trick there is, I don't get cheese on the sandwich, and then I don't get chips. I get a side of broccoli or I get a side of fruit. I make sure it's not the fruit covered in syrup, and it's like that little
Yes,
changes like that as
it adds up.
and you talk about here at ORU, incredible dining services. I mean, I can go have a salad and throw a chicken breast on it, slice it up, a little bit of oil on the salad, not heavy on the dressing, and I've had a very healthy meal, and I don't leave sluggish. So, what
Yes.
would you say to people that are like, okay, well, that's all well and good, but about 3 o'clock every day, man, I'm
Mhm.
struggling.
Yes, very
I need
common.
that pop, I need that soda, I need that, a handful of candy from the box in my desk. What do you say to people that are like, that sounds great on the meals, but how do I avoid the little trip
Lump.
hazards?
Yes, that's a great question. First of all, you're not alone in that 3 o'clock slump. That's very, very common. It can be difficult to get through the day and not, get into a cycle of relying on caffeine. Or I have a lot of students who, rely on the energy drinks and might drink 2 or 3 a day, which we're working on. But I would definitely say do the best that you can to set yourself up for maybe you do some kind of exercise in the morning, or if you have a lunch break and you can do it then, and it kind of helps to wake you up. And I'm a big believer, again, we go back to the intermittent fasting. I'm a big believer of when you are eating it, even if it is within a specific window, if you can really try to eat every 3 to 4 hours just to kind of help to keep your blood sugars up, but also include protein, lean protein, good protein options, kind of baseline. There's been a lot of research about trying to get at least 90 grams of protein in per day for all across the board. Just and all like the food logs, diaries that I've kind of looked at, a lot of people don't hit that. And I think I've seen a lot of people include protein and try to get, at least 25 to 30 grams of protein in per meal. So you're doing 3 meals
Yeah.
per day and feel phenomenally better. I would say something else that goes alongside that is hydration. It's something we don't
Yeah.
talk about a lot, and a lot of times I won't even touch on the food aspect until it's like, how much water are you drinking?
Yeah.
More often than not, you get people who are like, I drink maybe, two 16-ounce water bottles. So that's like 4 cups of water a day. That's not even hitting like half of what most people should be trying to get baseline. On top of that, if
Yeah.
you're exercising, you're sweating, you're losing a lot of those fluids through your sweat, it's going to leave you drained. It's going to leave you in that slump come 3 o'clock. I definitely think that choosing the right foods, there's also, again, throwing out some research, been research done about if you say you have a lunch meal, it's a little bit bigger than you were hoping to have, or you were a little bit hungrier and you maybe overate, going on a 10-15 minute walk. Doesn't have to be a power walk, just getting outside.
Get up
If
and
you have
move. Yeah.
ability to movement, that can drastically improve your blood sugar levels. So you're not having this like high and low slump where you're just
Mm,
like, I feel horrible. And it can influence your insulin levels, your fat buildup, just like your overall body compositions. It's wild, but sometimes just knowing and having this knowledge, having this education, and being able to really do some of these simple things can make a big
sure.
difference.
So you mentioned it, so I want to bring it up. I
Yes.
noticed that when I stop at a gas station, maybe get a protein bar. I do. People that know me know that I drink a lot of coffee, but I actually,
I
love.
do too.
I love a particular diet yellow drink that is
Oh,
from the
yeah.
mountains and it pours out. No, but I do notice how many guys my age and older will have 2 or 3 energy drinks they'll grab. And
Yes.
so, and I know there's been a lot of research about this. My oldest son is, now an adult. He's a track athlete as well. And we used to talk a lot about that in high school. Like you need to be really careful with your consumption of these energy drinks. Talk about that because I think sometimes parents don't even, realize.
Yes.
And in some cases, grown adults are grabbing several at the gas station or at Costco, the big giant pallets of them. So talk about maybe some of the research or concerns about those.
Yeah, so a lot of your energy drinks that you're seeing, some are a little bit lower in caffeine, but something like, I believe this is one of the higher ones that might have 200 milligrams or more in a can. So if you're having 2 or 3 of these, that's 400 to 600 milligrams. That is a lot of caffeine. I
Yeah.
would say try to limit it to, if you can, a consistent basis, and maybe some days are a little bit higher, some are a little bit lower, but around that 200 milligrams, 250 probably tops, which
Yeah.
is one of these energy drinks. That would be a really good goal to kind of aim for. A lot of times it can affect your heart in really negative ways. It can
Mm,
be some of these cardiovascular diseases, which a lot of people don't think about in the moment, but down the road, it can lead to a lot of anxiety just because when you're just like amped up, oh my gosh, I have all this energy, this steady
yeah.
stream of energy that's not really actually steady, it's just a lot all at once. It can
Sure.
affect you in a good way if it's a smaller amount. And say there's like been the studies on ADHD, how it affects a lot of people where they can get off their medication and actually rely on caffeine to help them concentrate. But if you go over that, it's detrimental to that concentration and
Yeah.
to your
And what
focus.
it's because there's so many stimulants in the drink
Right.
that it a
Exactly.
lot of times is trying to spike your energy level, spike your blood sugar.
Exactly. So the stimulants on top of the caffeine, it's just a lot for your system to be able to handle. And we're not designed to handle that much caffeine on top of those stimulants. So yeah, a lot of times it does make someone very just like anxious. And then when you go off of that or you're trying to wean off, you get those headaches. You just like I think it's a very scary place. And I've actually been here before where, when I was working in athletics, I would do a lot of like the pre-workouts just because it helped you kind of get through the day. So you get sucked in, and I understand that pretty easily. I have a late night, or we've been here for 7 days in a row for the last month, and I'm not even the one who's like working out, and I need this as well. So definitely get how you get into that cycle, but it can affect your sleep as well, which then furthers the problem where you're not getting that good quality REM sleep. And sometimes
Hmm.
people will then rely on sleep medication, which can leave
Yeah.
you feeling a little hungover the next morning. So then you're back on the energy drink. So I understand it's a hard cycle to break. It's just if you can find that time when it's maybe not stressful with finals or work or wherever you're at, having that time to kind of know, okay, I'm going to really devote this, week or two to kind of just trying to get off this cycle.
So obviously, if you're drinking a lot of those, and you're not getting the water. That's a
Exactly.
double whammy.
Yes. And caffeine actually is hydrating up to a certain point. So up to about 2 cups of coffee. So average cup of coffee would be about 65 milligrams. So 130 milligrams. It actually helps to contribute to your hydration goals. But over that, it becomes a diuretic. So not going to be helpful for you. But just as a precautionary, I would say for every cup of coffee, even those first maybe 2 cups that you drink water alongside it just to kind of
Okay.
help in keeping you hydrated, but especially beyond those two.
Okay, so in the time we have left, here just a couple minutes, I want to ask you, Diane, for people that are, we want them to consult your medical professional, your dietitian, your nutritionist. But as part of that, what are 2 or 3 things you might recommend that kind of like actionable steps that people can do? I think you've touched on a couple of them: drink more water, walk,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
healthy foods, whole healthy foods. But what are some things that people can do? Maybe little adjustments that are not even thinking.
Yes, this is great timing because I was just giving some kind of self-care tips to some of our college students as they come back into the spring semester. And we had 4 main pillars of what we call mindful health and wellness, just concepts to keep in mind. So, number one would be sleep. Vitally important. It affects just your overall hormone health, your overall focus, how you perform at work, grades, everything, all aspects. So, trying to really aim for 7 hours or more per night if you can. If you're going to have those nights where you get 4 or 5 hours, that's okay. Just trying to jump back into trying to consistently sleep 7 hours per night or more is very, very important. Secondly, trying to have nourishing meals and snacks as much as possible. So, grabbing those fruits and vegetables, grabbing nuts and seeds, having 3 meals per day, including 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal can make a huge difference. Gosh, number three, I would say practicing gratitude can just frame your entire day. I
Mm,
know it's not nutrition focused, but even just sitting
that's
down,
good.
praying thanking God before a meal or whatever that incorporates for you, just that mindfulness, taking a few
Yeah.
moments of that in a busy world that we live in. And then movement, whatever that looks like. You got some endurance athletes out there who are working out 5, 6, 7 days a week. This is no problem for them. You have other people who just are having trouble finding time for that movement. So even if it's a 20 or 30-minute walk, just getting some kind of movement as many days out of the week as possible, it can help a lot with just not only the physical aspect, but just your overall like anxiety, mood, focus, just especially when it's so nice out right now, just enjoying the sunshine make a big difference and help your vitamin D levels.
It's true.
As far as
I was just going to ask you if there are any resources that you can think of.
yes, yes. So one of my very favorite cookbooks, she was the former American K and marathon record holder. Her name is Shalane Flanagan. She wrote a cookbook called Run Fast, Eat Slow. Had some dietitians weigh in on it, a professional cook weigh in on it. It has very realistic recipes that you can build out for your family. And it also kind of gives tidbits as far as if you're feeling really drained, your immune system is feeling run down, you're feeling like, you have a big presentation coming up and you need some of those kind of like foods that are really going to boost your mind, your body, all of the things, lots of different recommendations. If you're low in certain micronutrients, she has recipes geared towards that. So just a fun cookbook, fun to read through, even if you only make one or two of the recipes, very educational as well. So I would definitely check that out. Run Fast, Eat Slow is the name of the cookbook.
Run fast, eat slow.
And
That's probably good advice, right? In general.
Yes, exactly. You don't have to be a runner and you don't have to be an athlete in order to read through this book and implement it
Well,
in your
look,
life.
I have sympathy for the young parents, especially the moms out there of small children. You do plenty of running. It may not be running a marathon, but you probably feel
Yeah,
like it some days. So, Diane, it's been so great having you on. Definitely want to have you back in the future.
I
I
would
think
love that.
it's good to have just some balanced thoughts and approach to all this because there is so much going on. I mean, that's the thing. You listen to this podcast now, your algorithms of your social media are going to give you all these posts about all these different fads and diets and trends. So there's so much out there. So it's really good to just kind of carve through it and say, okay, it really is the basics. It
Yes.
really is fundamental, sound food planning, meal planning, grocery shopping, and all that. Not to say that, you can't, I think one of the things I learned long ago is moderation, portion control is such a huge thing. You travel internationally, you go to another country and their portion sizes, we're like, what is this? Because in America, we just do everything to the biggest, right?
That's absolutely true.
To the excess and not
Yes,
necessarily good.
exactly. And I think having kind of arming yourself with, if you do get in a rut and you're like, I don't have any time for lunch, just having kind of healthy snacks on hand with you, I always have snacks on me. I've made fun of for it, but I'm like, you know what? I got my
Hey,
jerky or
yeah,
my beef sticks. I got my nuts and seeds. I got sometimes it's like whole grain crackers or fruit, and
awesome.
I'm feeling good. So
Good.
definitely, simplify it as much as possible. I always say nutrition shouldn't be complicated. Planning ahead is everything.
If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, do you have socials or email or anything like that?
Yes. Yep. You can reach me. I have a social Instagram account
Okay.
called Fuel Your Feet. And if you also make any recipes you're proud of, send those to me.
Oh, I
Send
love it.
pictures. I always love like taking and posting pictures of food that other people make and sharing
Yeah.
ideas of
Well,
different
I'm going to
people.
send you. I made my own spaghetti sauce last week.
Ooh,
Gosh.
fancy.
Yeah,
That
I'll have
is
to send you a
impressive.
picture. I mean, it wasn't done. It was like in the beginning stages, but I was very proud of
Yeah.
myself. It was delicious. Now, the kids are like,
Okay.
"What is this?" Because it's not from a
Right.
jar, but it tasted like restaurant style. So I liked it. It was
I
very
am very
healthy
impressed.
and and
That
and
is
very
amazing.
flavorful. Well, thank you for coming on. And for those of you that have been listening, commuting, that sort of thing, in the show notes, you'll see information there and details on how you can connect with Diane as well. Until next time, we hope you have a wonderful week. And remember, you can find us every place that you listen to podcasts, YouTube, pray.com, and we drop a new episode every Tuesday. Until then, we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys.